Hey guys, Doug here, Spooky Villages. Hope you're having a very spooktacular October. I started the Spooky Villages website in 2016 in the spring, and when I did, I wanted to do written reviews, for all these different pieces. I started with Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory. And ultimately this year though, I decided that I wanted to go to YouTube, as the format, because it's easier to find people there, they can find you easier. It just works a lot better, especially since a lot of these pieces, they're good for video anyways. And I thought about starting the channel off with Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory, but I figured I'd wait till October to do it so I could do it proper. Well, here we are in October, and it's time to do it. So Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory, it came out in 2004, and it was retired in 2009. There's actually two versions of it. The first year that it was available, there was a working guillotine, and that's the one that I have. For the next and subsequent years till it was retired, there was the guillotine didn't work anymore. And they did this to alleviate some of the mechanical complexity because the guillotine is super temperamental. I know on most people's it breaks pretty quick. I'm lucky that mine works still, and I do run mine really sparingly though, just because I'd like to keep it working. Before getting into that though, let's take a look back, I guess, and talk about, Spooky Town, what it was like back then. So Lemax Spooky Town, really 2002 and 3 were when it was in its infancy and had started. And the styling of it was different then. The buildings were typically smaller, and they were a little bit more, realistic, but they weren't, as fantastical, really. They seemed to really kind of mimic Department 56 style, of back then, which was also, pretty straightforward, and I don't want to use serious, but they just weren't as crazy or as humorful, pieces as they've become. Then in 2004, when the Torture Factory came out, there were also several other buildings, like the Witch's Lair and the Isle of Doom, that came out, and that's when the modern Spooky Town started, really. So in 2004 you had the shift from the smaller, more realistic, maybe more basically lit, single bulb houses to the extravagantly animated, lit up, fantastical pieces that also have a good bit of macabre humor. I don't know if there's a piece that really demonstrates better what Lemax Spooky Town is all about than the Torture Factory. The building looks extremely scary. I mean, it looks very spooky. The lighting is awesome, the animation is awesome. The premise is, fairly absurd. The whole torture factory, basically, where, like a doctor's office where he tortures you. Come on, it's crazy. But it's hilarious. It's so tongue-in-cheek. It works great. Even a good soundtrack on it. The inside of the building lights up. The guy on the torture rack spins around there. Again, mine has a guillotine. I know all of them don't. But the gears turn on top of the building as well. The skull lights up, the eyes go in and out, and also the sign on the front is lit with these small LEDs. It looks like a Las Vegas sign. Again, totally over the top, but awesome. And just so you guys know, my sign has some hot glue on it. When I got it a few years ago, the collector I got it from, it had been glued, repaired, I guess, with some hot glue. So that's why you see it. That's not on all the pieces. I also do have a couple bulbs that have gone out. So again, this is a very macabre piece. These, there's Iron Maidens inside. Obviously, there's a guy on a torture rack. The guillotine on the side has a bucket of heads. Just a really scary piece. The paint job on this is about as good as Lemax has ever done. The finish is killer. And there's also all these spikes, coming off of it. It looks like an insidious building where some bad stuff happens. This was the first building that I ever bought. I got it on eBay. And I've shown it before, but here's what my first display looked like with the Halloween water tower. It's pretty simple. And the Torture Factory remains one of my favorite buildings of all time. Probably my favorite, really. I've gone back and forth with the Mad Pumpkin Patch this year, which I really, really like. But I probably got to give the nod to Dr. Stretch and Pull just because it's been around for a while. And it kind of was a thing that really, even if it was the piece that didn't necessarily, push me over the edge to want to do it, which I'll be reviewing that piece later. This is the first piece that I bought, and I fell in love with it after that. There are some flaws in this building, though, of course. It is insanely loud. The mechanisms inside, whether it's the door that rises and lowers or those gears up top, it is just a ton of noise put off with it. If you do have a guillotine also, it's a very loud click every time it goes down. For that reason, I don't run it very often as well. Obviously, I don't want it to break down. I'm afraid of that because it's an older piece at this point. But it just overpowers a lot of other things. So bear in mind with that, that you could run into that issue with this, if you do want to run it all the time. I wouldn't let that just dissuade you though, because it is an amazing piece otherwise, but you just should know that it is loud. I think that sums up my feelings on it. You know, I don't know what else really there is to say on it. This is just a Hall of Fame Lemax piece. It's one of the greatest ones that they ever did. It's one of the ones that was instrumental in making Spooky Town what it is now, since they changed the line right around this time, and this is one of, you know, obviously the first ideas that they had was to come up for this, and it's just really successful at what it does. And it's a real head turner. If this is in your display, even if you don't run it, you just have it sitting there, the size of it is so big and it looks so cool that it just sticks out even with no animation. So when you do turn it on, it just looks completely insane. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and here it is with the sound and music.
Definitely ahead of its time. And are you stressed from being chained to that 9-to-5 job? Then get our complete deep tissue body massage to get the kinks out. We've found that the best way to beat the daily grind is with a little grind and unwind. And to help bring a broken smile to your face, we even have an uncertified dentist on staff. Do you find that shocking? Please, don't be shy.